Today, people from many different countries have, through no choice of their own, found themselves in situations that have forced them to request political refugee status in a safe country. The possibility of requesting such status was made possible by UN General Assembly Resolution 429.5, which was adopted on December 14, 1950. Refugee status may be requested on the basis of oppression because of race, oppression because of religious beliefs, nationality or citizenship, belonging to a persecuted social group, or political views. Later, a convention against torture was added. There are four main ways to request refugee status in another country: at an embassy, through the UN, at the border of a country, or when already in a safe country. A person usually cannot request refugee status at an embassy. But if your situation is well known and has attracted much attention, the embassy may, of its own accord, offer it to you. This happens very rarely and should not be viewed as a viable option. If you have fled your country and are in a country where there is a representative of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR, you can request refugee status through the UN. If your case meets the requirements, you will be granted such status. In this situation, you have reason to hope that a country will accept you as part of its quota. Today, such status has been granted to tens of thousands of refugees, most of whom waited for years for their turn to leave according to prescribed quotas. Most are forced to live in refugee camps. Such individuals are called refugees. This method is very difficult and fraught with many unknowns. It is for those who have no other option. Therefore, we will not discuss it. Some people request refugee status right at the border or in a transit zone of the country to which they wish to flee. This method is both risky and stressful. Usually, the person requesting such status must spend some time in a camp or in a special detention facility for refugees. This is not a good option for everyone. The best and most orderly method is to legally enter the country where you are going to request asylum. If you have traveled to the U.S. with a visa, you can live in a normal home and have practically the same opportunities as average Americans while your case is being considered. This way of seeking political asylum is the preferred method and is much less stressful. From the date you arrive in the United States, you have 1 year to submit your request for asylum. But if you have unusual circumstances and do not do it within that time, you can submit your case at any time. When in the USA, there are two ways to request asylum: in an immigration court or at United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, or USCIS. About 2 weeks after you have submitted your paperwork, you will receive confirmation that your case has been received, along with the date that it was accepted for processing. On that date, your status will change. You will now have pending asylum status. Soon afterward, you will receive a notice to go for an identification procedure for fingerprints and other things. After this, you will wait for an appointment for an interview. If a considerable period of time has elapsed since your case was accepted for processing, 150 days or more, you can apply for a work permit. Along with this, you will receive a Social Security number, or SSN. Then you can legally work in the United States. If after your interview you are approved for asylum, the Department of Homeland Security will provide you with Form I-94, which contains your personal information. It will also be stamped to show that you have been granted asylum status indefinitely. As soon as you receive asylum status, you can immediately obtain or update your Social Security number and begin to work legally. 1 year after you have received asylum status, you can apply for a green card. After 4 more years, you can become a U.S. citizen. If, after your interview with USCIS, you are refused asylum, your case will be referred to an immigration court. There, you will have another opportunity to prove why your fears are real and valid. Many in the USA have received asylum status in this way. Several months and even a few years can go by from the time your case is sent to the immigration court until the time it is actually heard. At first, you will have a preliminary hearing called a master calendar hearing, where you will schedule the earliest convenient date for your case to be considered. This hearing is usually not very long, lasting 15 to 20 minutes. Before the next hearing, called the individual or merits hearing, several months and even years can go by. Therefore, you will have plenty of time to carefully prepare for this court hearing. The judge will be ready to hear your arguments and carefully examine your case. There are 3 ways to apply for asylum in the United States. Do everything yourself, enlist the help of someone, or hire a lawyer. You can decide which option is best for you. Many risk doing it themselves or with the help of someone they know. It is important to understand that you need to go over everything very carefully and remember that any mistakes can have very serious consequences. Errors can also be made by immigration services. Correcting them is not a simple process. A professional is needed to do this. The law offices of Anastasia Sack and the Immigration Service IC agency will be happy to provide professional assistance in the matter of asylum and other issues related to immigration. You'll be very pleased with our rates. The standard rate for submitting the necessary documents for asylum is just $2,000 without any additional fees. We serve all states and U.S. territories. You can contact us by email at us@ic.agency. For more information, visit our website, ic.agency.